my alarm went off. She told me that she checked her this ring that she's got, like this is it a mood ring, or like it checks your heart rate, and I think a lot of people have them. But anyway, her heart rate is decreased, and she's more in the parasympathetic nervous system for a long time, all the time, since doing this belly breathing 10 minutes a day. And it's such a great practice. I'm going to put the link below and you can check it out. And, you know, as I was saying, so when we go through these ego deaths, whether it's like a burnout or identity crisis, who am I, like where we let go of a relationship, or have a change of career, or get sacked, or go through this ego death where a part of us has to die. And, you know, evolution is death. It's a death of an old pattern of identity, a behavior, you know, addictive behavior. For me, I've had to have many ego deaths, like just this part of me that felt so much in my head and in separation. I had so much shame around who I was and not feeling good enough that I'd put myself above, and I'd have this kind of like spiritual ego of needing to be better than, or more spiritual, or whatever, like so many things that this mask that I was wearing just in order to be liked, loved, and accepted, and people pleasing, and manipulative, and all of these shadowy qualities that I, you know, had, and, you know, can see them now in other people, because when you have them within yourself, you can see that in another person. That's a big part of the head to the heart, is, you know, starting to see these reflections through being in a group container with women. And, you know, what we see in another human, we only can see that as we have in ourselves. And if we've disowned it in ourselves, then we'll actually realize that you know, when we've disowned it in ourselves, we see it in another person, and we don't like that quality, or we feel triggered about that quality with somebody else. But often or not, we actually have that quality within ourselves. So if someone's like being manipulative or jealous, or you know, putting themselves on a pedestal, or people pleasing, we can only see this tendency because we have it. And this is really liberating, because the more that we can shine the light on the shadow, the more free we can become, and the more whole we actually are. Because when we have these shadow qualities playing out, we're not being in our authenticity. And a big part of the head to heart journey is coming back into that authenticity and that natural way of being, which, you know, that's why I'm so committed to doing my inner work, because my shadow can still come up. It came up the other day where I did something not in truth, and it was like an ulterior motive. Like, I know why I was doing it. It was to get a certain, basically, without going into too much story, I wanted to have this contact from like another energy healer that my friend recommended. And the guy that I was seeing, his friend goes to the energy healer, and the guy that I'm, you know, having this connection with, and he really wants to work on himself. And since meeting me, he's like, his whole life's changed. And I ended up becoming a little bit of the teacher, and I didn't really want to play that role, but I did a little bit. And, you know, afterwards he was like, oh, you've helped me so much, thank you. I was like, I'll send you my invoice. I was a bit kind of like, ugh, you know, but that's my fault for, you know, going out with someone and, you know, being that teacher role. I've also been on the flip side where they've been the teacher, and it always feels out of balance. Anyway, long story short, I asked his friend for the number of this energy healer, and I was like asking him for like, oh, do you recommend him, or like what's his kind of practice. I'm very particular about who I go to, and obviously I do this with other people, so I want to have, you know, someone to help me as well. Anyway, I did it because I knew that they would talk. And it could have seemed a bit manipulative, which I take ownership on that shadow. And, you know, there was a part of me that was hoping that it would get back to the person that I'm seeing, and that maybe he also goes to see the energy work healer, so he can work on his things, and maybe we could get back together, who knows. But I have to let that little girl dream die, because who knows, it might not happen, and I have to let that go. But long story short, these shadow qualities come up. Thankfully, I'm aware of it, and I can spot it, and I have self-accountability and self-honesty around it, because it will always bite you in the ass. And then it ended up biting me in the ass because my friend had this conversation with the guy that I've just been seeing, and we've had to like have a little separation. And I'm telling you this so you can really start to see it within yourselves. She mentioned the energy healer, and I said that I'm going to go start seeing him, and that I asked his friend for the number. Anyway, long story short, it doesn't really matter, but it basically bit me in the ass, and I have to own up to trying to play little games, because it's not coming from truth, it's coming from shadow. And you know, we all have this, and we all do it, whether we're conscious of it or not. And you know, consciously, when I'm aware of these things and I still do it playing out, I'm like, wow, like I do all of this work and it can still play out. Like, this is the key to shadow work, is having people in your life, which thankfully I have a few very incredible mentors and friends that point this out to me. But luckily I'm really aware of it, so I can even come to them before I've done it, or I have done it, and I'm like, oh, I did that thing again, and they can hold me in that loving, compassionate kind of, you know, like, can we hold that little girl that is trying to, you know, is trying to play games? Can we lovingly accept that part of us that is sometimes, you know, not coming from an authentic whole place? And, you know, this is the journey. We're not perfect. We don't need to be. I'm definitely not, and I'm not ever teaching that. However, we do have to have self-honesty. We have to have accountability, and we have to have people in our lives that we feel can point us out on our bullshit when we are bullshitting ourselves. And you know, it bites us in the ass. It bites us right in the ass when we're not being in truth, when we're acting from shadow. It always will come back and bite us in the ass. And I've had to humbly learn this many times, and probably many more to come. And I share from my own lived experience of wisdom. And yeah, and as a space holder and working a lot with clients, I see this all the time with them, and I can only see it within them because I have these patterns within myself. And I'm very, you know, humbled by my own shadow, and how, yes, we have a lot of light, all of us do, but we also have a lot of shadow. And if we are not looking at this, it's gonna bite us in the ass. So when we rest into that place of being, we can stop the mind structures, the ego mind structures that keep us really trapped in the mind. I've got a poem about it right underneath. When we get tripped in the mind, it's very exhausting, it's very consuming, and we can't see what's true. But as soon as we rest into being, whether we meditate, we do the belly breathing exercise I'm putting down below, or we have reflections from a mentor or a teacher or a friend, we can start to have a bit more clarity around these shadowy parts of ourselves that are, bless them, just trying to get love, liked, and accepted, and, you know, and they just want connection. But what happens is we create disconnection and separation, the ego does, when we come from a place of trying to get our needs met through shadow, which I'm learning with you guys as well. So ego death, burnout, depression, great ego deaths. I've had many more to come. Probably needed it. And yeah, I hope you like this video. It's going to be 2 parts because obviously one cut off. So my apologies. My editing skills are humbly going to get better, I hope. And if you know someone that's good at editing videos, then just let me know. All right, go check the belly breathing video out. It's really powerful and will really help you with any anxiety and bring you back into the rest and digest. Big kiss. If you have any questions, reach out.